Hello and welcome to The Hero Spouse. I'm Kenda Ruth, here to answer one of your questions about marriage and midlife crisis. Today we have an anonymous male left behind spouse. His bomb drop is June of this year, 2022, and his date of marriage is 2010. He thinks that he has a clinging boomerang and a high energy replayer. And I say thinks because it's so early in the situation that sort of thing is really hard to tell at this point because there's still a lot of cycling going on this early. He says, I'm confused as to whether it is a midlife crisis. She's still connecting with our kids, but she seems to resent me. Our grown kids are upset and confused, and our grandkids are starting to show signs of withdrawal from everyone. She's saying her alienator is perfect, and she sees no red flags. I'm assuming she sees no red flags in him or in the relationship with him. She's got the same repeating cycle where she runs to another man when her marriage gets tough. She's exhibiting all of the signs, and she's even moved out. She's nice to me and seems like she's stringing me along as a safety net if it doesn't work out with him. She gets cold and avoids me when he's around her. She lies to me constantly even though I catch her. And when I do, she runs to him even harder. I'm detaching myself from her, but the bond is very strong, given our past. I'm not sure anymore if she's an MLCer or not. There are times when she wants to lean into my personal space, and I see her cry for help in her eyes. But she pushes me away every time. So the first thing I'm going to say is that wants to be in your personal space, pushes you away, is normal. This is just the beginning. Supposing MLC, it's just the beginning. And you catch her in a lie, so she runs to him. Well, she's embarrassed. She has to go somewhere for comfort. And so those dynamics are typical. Now, the other thing I'm going to talk about is I'm going to assume that they're either your or her stepkids or both, then you're a blended family because of your date 2010 and of marriage, and that you have grandkids, or you were together a long time in a marital style relationship and you were married in 2010. But I'm going to assume the original because it makes more sense. And so you also said she has a repeating cycle where she runs to another man when her marriage gets tough. And you didn't say this has happened in your marriage with her. So I'm assuming this is what she does. This signals a few things. It signals a fear of abandonment, possibly, or she just doesn't have the proper coping skills. So you're right. It may not be a midlife crisis, or it may be a midlife crisis, or it may be something that's more of a perpetual, let's not say identity crisis, but a sort of fluid or floating identity, or she's never really known who she is and known what, and she tries to find her identity perhaps within a relationship. Now, for everyone listening, please understand, I only have this tidbit of information, so I'm just throwing out guesses there. But given that it seems she has a repeating pattern, given the comment about this is what she does in her marriage, she runs to another man, given that you even referenced our history together, given our history together, you said your bond is strong, but it's given our past, there's a little hint that there's something in there. There's a clue in there. And you haven't been in this very long right now. So it's very new and you're asking a lot of big questions, but you have some serious history and you don't have a marriage that is nearly long enough to have, grown kids and grandkids. So it brings up those questions, even without the comment about her cycling pattern of running to another man when her marriage gets tough. So what difference does it make? It might make a big difference. It might not. Basically, she's in a crisis. She doesn't really know who she is. And if she's found herself in you, she probably has some codependency issues. And she feels fulfilled within the relationships that she's in. And part of that might be because she doesn't know how to feel who she is when in solitude, when she's not in a relationship. And you said she leaves one marriage for another. She runs to another man. She doesn't leave to be alone. She leaves to hop into another relationship. So she's finding rescue and solace and identity within those relationships. And that's the problem that might be going on here. is she's never formed her own identity. Well, what can you do about it? Well, you can't form her identity for you, for her. What you can do is do everything that you're supposed to do as a midlife stander. Is you detach and you heal and you be there for her. Yes, she is, especially if she's doing some of what I say, is identifying herself through relationships. She wants you there. She wants you there as her security blanket or comfort, second choice, whatever you label it. That doesn't always mean that we're second choice, but in this instance, she needs a rescuer. And when I say needs, I don't mean needs, I mean needy. I mean in the sense of a victim. And that isn't what you should be. But you can be a friend that sets strong boundaries, sets loving boundaries, and doesn't let her cross them, but you be firm and loving when she does. Firm. Because she might try to attack and break down your boundaries. And that's going to be really hard. Your job, no matter what, is to heal. Focus on you, live your best life, and work on that detachment. Because if there's some codependency problems, very well a two-way street, and you need to learn to not be codependent on her or not enable codependence. Whether it's a midlife crisis or not might not be the issue. That doesn't mean it isn't. It's just that the issue in some ways might be a little bit not bigger, because it doesn't mean that she's having a worse crisis, but it might be deeper, meaning that oftentimes we see, I had the perfect spouse and we were married for 30 years and they didn't have this pattern of always running to another man in their marriages. They had a pattern of solid relationship for 20, 30 years. You have a pattern showing these issues that come up again and again for her. So she's never really resolved them. She's never looked into herself to figure out what she can do to become herself. And so it's not that her crisis is going to be any worse or not than others. It's just that she has not ever come through the crisis. And she just keeps piling on more and more. And she doesn't know who she is. And this could go back to being a teenager, where she might just not have chosen her final identity. Final doesn't sound right, but her identity of what she was going to be through life. And it means that in some ways she's still experimenting with identities, and she uses her relationships to determine who her identity is at this time. So if you want to give me more information that might help solidify it and could change what I have to say, go right ahead. I'm open for any submissions you have. And I hope this was helpful. I'll see everybody in the next question.